So we're starting here actually halfway through line 763, and we can start with this word hook, which means two here. And then the subject actually is Gaza, which is quite an unusual Latin word. It's not Latin in origin, actually, but and you can kind of tell that from the Z in it, which you don't normally see in Latin words, but it means treasure. So to hear the treasure, and then Troia is ablative case, so it's short for a Troia, from Troy, and then undique means everywhere. So therefore, undique Troia together means from all over Troy. And then you've got in the next line a repta. That's a PPP, perfect passive participle, and you can see that it's feminine, agreeing with Gaza. So it's the treasure from all over Troy, having been torn away, a repta, and then you've got an ablative phrase meaning from, in censis aditis. In censis is another PPP that means burned, and aditis are sanctuaries. Okay, so just to go back over that again from hook, so to here, the treasure from all over Troy, torn away from burned sanctuaries. And then going on after the comma, que meaning and, mensai are tables. So you've got the tables, and then deorum, genitive plural, means of the gods. So table and tables of the gods. And then que again, meaning and then crateres are bowls, and they are described as solidi, right? Solidi agrees with crateres, the bowls solid with gold. So auro is ablative case, with gold. Now in English, we probably wouldn't say solid with gold. We would say of solid gold. So I would probably translate it that way. And then you've got que again, meaning and then you've got the adjective captiva, meaning captive or captured. And it's agreeing, it's feminine, it's agreeing with vestis, which is clothing. And then finally, at the end of the sentence, you have the main verb congeritur, which is present passive, and it means is piled up. So let me just go back to mensai in line 764. So it means and tables of the gods and bowls of solid gold and captured clothing is piled up. Okay. New sentence in line 766. We start with the subject, pueri, and then et, meaning and then there's another subject, pavidai, agreeing with matres. So that means quaking mothers or trembling mothers. And they are described as longo ordine. Now that is an ablative phrase, meaning in a long line. Right, ordine as in our English word order or orderly. And then the main verb is stant, they stand. And then circum is an adverb meaning around. So that whole sentence means boys and quaking mothers in a long line stand around. And you can see from the shortness of this line, this is what's called a half line. So it's not a full hexameter line, it's just it's sort of a fragment there. And we can talk more about that. So going on then, I would, in the next bit, I would probably translate queen first, which in this context means indeed. And then I would go to ausus. Now ausus is a PAP, perfect active participle. That's because it comes from a semi-deponent verb, audeo. So it has an active meaning. It means having dared to do something. And it's masculine singular, as you can see from the us on the end. So it's referring actually to Aeneas. So having dared, and then etiam means even, right? Having dared even to, and now we need an infinitive, which is jactare, having dared even to throw or cast, and the object is voces, literally voices, but we might say cries here, per umbram, through the shadow, or through the darkness. And then we get to the main verb, implewi, meaning I filled. And the object of that is vias, the streets. And then ablative clamore, with clamour or with shouting. So just to go through that line and a half again from Alsus, indeed, having dared even to cast cries through the darkness, I filled the streets with the clamour. So basically, even though it's very dangerous because the streets are swarming with Greek enemies, Aeneas is still kind of charging around, shouting, trying to find his wife Creusa. Okay, and then he continues describing the situation, que meaning and then maestus means sad or sorrowful, or we might want to translate this as an adverb, sorrowfully, and Aeneas tells us that he is in geminans. Now, you can see from the ns at the end that this is a present participle, and in geminare, this is a verb literally to double or to twin, but it basically means to repeat in this context. So sorrowfully repeating, and the object is creusam, accusative case, so repeating Creusa, in other words, shouting her name repeatedly. And then we have this adverb ne quiquam, meaning in vain. So, in other words, he doesn't get a response to his calls. So, and sorrowfully repeating Creusa in vain. And then we get our main verb, wokawi, I called her, and the object grammatically is still Creusam, I called her iterumque, again and again. Okay, I'm just going to go through those three lines again from Alsus. So, indeed, having dared even to cast cries through the darkness, I filled the streets with the clamour, and sorrowfully repeating Creusa in vain, I called her again and again. Okay, then if we go into the next line, this is 771, and we start with this word quaerenti, and you can see from the nt, it's a present participle, and from the I at the end, you know that it's dative, so it means to someone searching. And that someone here, I think, is Aeneas himself. So, to me, searching, et ruenti. So, ruenti is another of these dative present participles. So, rushing, to me, rushing. And I think some other editions have furenti, meaning raging. So, either of those is possible. To me, searching and raging or rushing, and then tektis is ablative plural, so you've got to imagine in before it, in tektis, in the houses, and then urbis is genitive singular, of the city, and then you've got sine fine, meaning sine fine with a long I there, sine fine meaning without end, sine plus ablative. Okay, so just to go through that line again, to me, searching and raging in the houses of the city without end. And then you have the adjective here. This is the nominative adjective describing the subject. In felix means sad. And it's agreeing with simulacrum, meaning a phantom. So the sad phantom, atque umbra, and ghost. And then you have a genitive phrase, ipsius Creusae, of Creusa herself. Visa, right, this is from a deponent verb, videor, means appeared. It's short for visa est, appeared to me. So mihi is the dative of ego, appeared to me. Ante oculos, ante plus accusative, before my eyes. And et an imago, an image, or a form, maior, larger, and remember comparatives often are followed by the ablative, larger than, the nota, the known one, the familiar one, the one that I knew. So nota is ablative because it's a comparison, right, than, and it's also feminine because it's agreeing with imago, right, and it's a form larger than the familiar one. So in other words, he sees Creusa's ghost, and she's kind of a bigger form. She's kind of taller and wider. She's grown in a way since death, and this is a sort of ancient belief, I suppose, that somebody who is that ghosts essentially are kind of larger than life. They're sort of bigger than human living forms. So just to I'll go back to In Felix here. So the sad phantom and ghost of Creusa herself appeared to me before my eyes, and a form larger than the familiar one. Okay, then next line, 774, we start with the main verb obstipui, which means I was astounded, I was amazed. And my commi, right? Commi are hair, right? So my hair, in Latin, hair is plural because you have lots of them, whereas in English we tend to say hair in the singular. So my hair, and then the verb is steterunt, which means stood. In other words, my hair stood on end. And and then we have another subject, vokes, the voice, which could be written with a V or a U. The voice, hysit, clung or stuck, as in adhesive in English. The voice stuck. And this verb takes dative, faucibus, to my throat. Now the Latin word fauces, meaning a throat, is plural, but in English we use a singular for that. So I'll just go through that sentence quickly from obstipui again. So I was astounded, and my hair stood on end, and the voice stuck to my throat. Okay, going on to line 775, tum, meaning then. And then the main verb is ad fari. Now this is it looks like a present passive infinitive. It's not actually passive in meaning because the verb is deponent. And this is something called a historic infinitive, where you use the infinitive instead of just a normal past tense verb. So it means she spoke, basically. So then she spoke, seek, in this way, et, and then you got an ablative phrase, his dictis, with these words. Dictis is just like verbis, basically, with these words. She, deimere, this is another historic infinitive, she took away, and then the object is kuras, my cares, my anxieties, my fears, whatever. So again, I'll just go through that sentence one more time. From tum, then she spoke in this way, and with these words took away my cares. Okay, and then in line 776, we go into direct speech. So this is the speech of Aeneas's wife, Creusa, who's dead. It's her ghost speaking to her living husband. And she says, quid. Now, quid is actually the subject of euat. Euat means helps. So quid euat means what does it help? In other words, what good does it do? And then this is followed by the infinitive indulgere. So what good does it do? To give way, right? Indulgere, to give way, like indulge in English. What good does it do to let's say, give way, tantum, so much, and this is followed by a dative phrase, so much, to insano dolori, to insane grief. Okay, so just to go through that line again from quid, what does it help to give way so much to mad grief? And then she addresses him in the next line, O dulcis conjunx. Dulcis meaning sweet, conjunx meaning husband. And that phrase is vocative case because she's addressing him in direct speech. So what does it help to give way so much to mad grief, O sweet husband? In other words, what are you really achieving by all this sadness and grief? You need to move on. And that's what she's going to tell him to do. She then says, hike. Now, hike here is neuter plural. So since there's no neuter plural noun with it, I would just say these things. And then the main verb is non veniunt. So do not happen. Sine plus ablative, and the ablative is noumenet, without the will, right? Noumen can mean a god or a divinity, but it can also refer to the divine will. So these things do not happen without the will, divum, of the gods. So divum is genitive plural, just like deorum. So she says these things do not happen without the will of the gods. So she's saying, don't cry for me too much, because this is just, yes, I'm dead, but this is just what the gods wanted. So get over it. Okay. She then says, nec, nor, and then fas. Now, fas is kind of a shortened version of fas est. Fas means kind of divine law, something that is allowed by the gods. So fas est, it means it is allowed. So nec fas, nor is it allowed. And this is followed by an accusative and infinitive. The accusative is te, and the infinitive is portare. So nor is it allowed for you to bring, that's portare, and the object of portare is creusan. So nor is it allowed for you to bring creusa, hinc, from here. And then comitem is accusative, agreeing with creusan. So it means as your companion. So just to go through that again, nor is it allowed for you to bring creusa from here as your companion. Nor, out, in the next line, nor does ille regnator, nor does that ruler, and then we have a genitive phrase, Olympi superi, of Olympus above, Olympus being the home of the gods up in the sky, nor does that ruler of Olympus above sin it, allow it. So she's trying to comfort him for her death, and she's saying, this is just the gods' will. You need to leave Troy, and the gods have decided that I'm not coming with you, right? The ruler of Olympus above, that is Jupiter, has not allowed me to go with you. So I'll just go through one more time from nec. So, nor is it allowed for you to bring creusa from here as your companion, nor does that ruler of Olympus above allow it.